Corpo-Seco, the archive that Brazil forgot script for investigative journalism opening. The case that was never solved. Look, there are stories we hear and dismiss as folklore. But what happens when these stories repeat themselves? When people who have never met describe exactly the same thing? In recent decades, in dozens of cities in the Brazilian interior, a story has emerged that defies any logical explanation. A figure that shouldn't exist. A body that the earth refused to bury. Today, we're going to investigate rigorously, with documents and real interviews, the most disturbing case in Brazilian folklore. The Corpo-Seco, dry body? And look, stay until the end, because I'm going to show you a document that has never been publicly displayed. Before we begin, if you enjoy this type of investigation, please like and subscribe to the channel. This really helps us to continue bringing you cases like this. Where does the legend begin? The story of Corpo-Seco is particularly strong in the southeast and midwest regions of Brazil. In small towns, villages, and isolated farms, the narrative is always similar. He was a cruel man. He beat his mother. He stole from his neighbors. He destroyed everything in his path. When he died, they say the earth simply wouldn't accept him. The body was returned. Dr. Augusto Mendes, cultural historian. This idea of a rejection by the land is very common in rural religious communities. It's a way of saying, you've lived so outside of morality that even nature doesn't want you. Okay, that makes sense as a symbol, as a moral lesson. But then comes the question that bothers me. Why do so many people claim to have seen this body walking? Description of the creature, the accounts are eerily similar. And mind you, these people live in places that don't even have proper internet access, let alone contact with each other. The dry body is described as having skin clinging to the bones, sunken eyes, strange movements, as if being pulled by invisible strings. Rural resident, 2011. I saw it up close. There was no flesh, just dry skin, stuck to the bone, and it walked. It walked slowly, but fast at the same time. I can't explain it. And that's the point. The description repeats itself in places that have never had contact with each other. The accounts, what did people see? Story 1. 1. The gravedigger of São Bento das Almas, 1987. In 1987, in a small town in the countryside, you'll call it São Bento das Almas for privacy reasons, a gravedigger recorded something bizarre. Gravedigger. I closed the grave in the late afternoon. Everything was normal. Then, about 15 minutes later, I heard 3 knocks, coming from inside the ground. I ran back, and there was a mark on the ground, as if something had been dragged out. The report he made for the local parish exists. I saw a copy, but it was never investigated. Report 2. The motorcyclist of the road, Paraná. 1998. A guy was coming home from work in the early morning hours on a rural road in Paraná. Total darkness. Only the motorcycle's headlight was illuminating the road. Motorcyclist, D. I saw a man on the side of the road. Too skinny? He looked like a dressed-up branch. When I passed him. Man. He turned his head. Too fast. It wasn't human movement. He filed a police report. The police registered it as possible individual in a state of severe malnutrition. They returned to the location 2 days later. Nothing was found. Report 3. The Marcus Farm, Minas Gerais, in the interior of Minas Gerais. A family wakes up to a noise at the kitchen door, as if someone were scratching the wood. Resident. My husband opened the door with the flashlight. There was no one there, but the marks were still there. Deep, long, like fingernails. A rural technician analyzed the grooves. Conclusion: they were made by human fingers. The investigation, science versus folklore, to try and understand this. I spoke with 3 experts. Forensic psychologist. In isolated areas, collective fear can create very real visual projections. People genuinely believe they saw something. Anthropologist. The dry body is a symbol. It represents what happens when you lose all your humanity. Coroner. A body in advanced decomposition may seem strange. But a body walking? That has no scientific explanation. So we have cultural and psychological explanations, but nothing that accounts for all the accounts. The central case, the lost file in 2003. A young anthropologist named Daniel Freitas was researching funerary rituals in the interior of Mato Grosso. He visited an abandoned village called Vila da Mata Alta. In the archives of the university where he studied, I found a diary that had never been officially catalogued. Daniel Freitas' diary. September 15th. Something moved in the cemetery. It wasn't an animal. I heard footsteps. Dry footsteps, like wood hitting the ground. September 16th. The residents don't talk much, but an elderly lady told me, "There's a man who died without a proper wake. They say he never stopped appearing." September 17th. He was on the road. He saw me. That was the last note. The night of the last note, according to the police report. Daniel went out alone that night, taking only a flashlight. His backpack was found 2 days later, fallen into a ravine. Inside, the broken flashlight and the diary. Daniel Freitas was never seen again. The case was filed as a disappearance in a rural area. But among the locals, everyone says the same thing. The dry body took him. Why is this legend so powerful? Legends don't spring from nothing. They are born where there are no answers. And the Corpo-Seco is, above all, a warning. It represents the fear of death without redemption, without rest, without a home. Anthropologist. Corpo-Seco is not just a monster. He is a reflection of what the community fears becoming. Other countries have similar figures. The French revenants, the Nordic draga, beings that return because they did not have a dignified end. But here in Brazil, this figure takes on its own unique form. It speaks to our relationship with the land, with death, with morality. Closure. The case remains open, so is there something walking along the country roads? Or are we witnessing one of Brazil's most intriguing cultural phenomena, fueled by fear, darkness, and collective imagination? To this day, no researcher has been able to explain all the accounts, and in the official archives, the name Corpo-Seco is still there, as an open case. If you know any stories about this legend, leave them in the comments. I read them all. And if you want a part 2, with new documents and never before seen investigations, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll see each other in the next investigation.